Am I the a-hole for kicking my in-laws out of our wedding after they tried to take control? I'm Ava, and I've been with my fiancé, Josh, for almost 3 years now. We met when we both worked at the same advertising agency, and while we come from very different backgrounds, we clicked immediately. Josh is this laid-back, easygoing guy from a small town in North Carolina, while I'm from a bigger city, Charlotte, to be exact. We're both in our 30s now, so we're not exactly young, but I guess you could say we're still in that stage of life where we were ready to settle down and build something solid. We got engaged last year, and ever since then, it's been one thing after another. First came the family drama. Now, let me give you a bit of context. Josh's family is, how do I put it? They're the type who think their way is the only way. His mom, Carol, is a control freak in the worst possible way, and his dad, Gary, just lets her run everything. To be fair, Josh has told me a million times that his parents are overbearing, but I never quite realized just how overbearing they could be until the wedding planning started. I always thought he was exaggerating. We decided to keep the wedding relatively small, no extravagant venue, no crazy expensive dress, just something that felt like us. We chose a local winery in the North Carolina mountains as the venue. The setting was beautiful, rustic, and peaceful, perfect for the vibe we wanted. It was intimate, with a guest list of around 80 people, including immediate family and close friends. At first, it seemed like everything was going smoothly. We had most of the major things planned, caterer, photographer, and even the music. And then, my in-laws got involved. It started small, with Carol suggesting a few things here and there, like the kind of flowers she thought would look perfect or a suggestion about the color scheme. Josh and I didn't mind at first, since we were both still getting a feel for what we wanted, and Carol seemed like she wanted to help. But slowly, she started to take over. I'll never forget the day we were discussing the guest list. Josh and I had agreed early on that we didn't want to invite everyone, just our closest family and friends. But Carol had other ideas. She called me one afternoon, out of the blue, and said, "Ava, I was thinking. We should invite some of Gary's business associates. You know, important people who could help Josh in his career." I didn't even know how to respond. What? No, Carol, we're not inviting your husband's work colleagues to our wedding. That's not what this is about. But Carol wasn't having it. Oh, Ava, you don't understand. These people could do a lot for Joshua. You really want to turn down the opportunity? I was speechless. I felt like I was in some weird alternate reality where a wedding was a business opportunity. I said, "No, Carol. We've made the list, and we're not adding anyone else." She huffed and said, "Well, it's your wedding, I guess." But I could feel the passive aggression in her voice. This was the beginning of things getting bad. As we moved along with the planning, Carol kept suggesting things. Like, she wanted to help with my wedding dress, but every time I picked one out, she'd say it was too simple. She insisted that I needed something more elegant even though I had my heart set on something more understated. And then came the bombshell. Carol called me one afternoon, and she said, "I've booked the florist for you. I know what flowers will look best." I froze. "Wait, you booked the florist without asking me?" She casually replied, "Well, it's just easier this way, and I've already talked to the winery about the arrangements. You'll love it." I was furious. I had asked her to hold off on any decisions until Josh and I could talk through the details together. I hadn't even given her the green light to handle this. I told her, "Carol, I don't want you making these decisions for me. I need to be involved in everything." She just laughed it off, like I was overreacting. "Oh, sweetie, it's all going to look beautiful. Trust me." At this point, I was losing patience. I didn't want to fight with her, but I had to stand my ground. I called Josh later that night and told him everything. He could tell I was upset. I explained how Carol had basically taken over the wedding planning, and how she was undermining my decisions. Josh was caught in the middle, as always, but he agreed to talk to her. The next day, Josh called Carol. He explained that we wanted to make decisions together, and that we'd appreciate her backing off a little. But Carol didn't take it well. In fact, she was furious. "I'm just trying to help you," she snapped at him. "You know how stressful weddings are. Why are you making this so difficult?" Josh tried to stay calm, but Carol kept insisting that we were being unreasonable. And then, things got worse. Much worse. A week later, Carol and Gary invited us over for dinner. I thought it was just a casual thing, but when we arrived, the entire table was full of wedding-related materials. Carol had printed out a spreadsheet with the wedding budget, and to my shock, she had already made arrangements for the rehearsal dinner without asking me. When I walked in, she said, "I've already chosen the location. It's at this fabulous country club. I know you'll love it." I was speechless. I looked at Josh, who was equally stunned.
I can't believe you did this, Carol," I said, trying to keep my voice steady.
Her response was unbelievable. "Well, Ava, I thought you would want it. You're welcome, by the way." That's when I had enough. I stood up from the table, looked at Josh, and said, "I can't do this anymore. I can't stand how she's taken over everything." Josh followed me outside, and I could see how torn he was. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I've told her, but she just doesn't listen." I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell him it wasn't just his mom, it was the entire way his family was treating me. They were making me feel like I had no say in my own wedding. But at that moment, I didn't know what to do. The next day, I did something I'd never thought I'd do. I called Carol and Gary, and I told them they were no longer invited to the wedding. I was done. "You've crossed a line," I said, my voice shaking with anger. "This is our wedding, not yours. You've taken control of everything, and it's making me feel like I'm just a guest at my own event. So, I'm sorry, but you're not coming." Carol's reaction was exactly what I expected. She freaked out. "How dare you? This is your wedding, and you're ruining it by not letting your family be involved." Gary, as usual, stayed silent, but I could hear him mumbling in the background. I didn't want to argue anymore, so I hung up. That was it. We ended up going ahead with the wedding with just our immediate families, no Carol, no Gary, no other relatives who felt they had to insert their opinions into everything. The day itself ended up being perfect. Small, intimate, beautiful, just like we wanted. But the aftermath? Not so great. Josh's family hasn't spoken to us since the wedding. I get that it was a drastic step, but I just couldn't take their overbearing, controlling behavior anymore. And now, I'm wondering if I went too far. I never wanted to cause a rift, but I feel like I had no choice. So, am I the a-hole for kicking my in-laws out of our wedding after they tried to take control of everything? I really need some advice on this. I'm still kind of stunned by how things turned out, and I just want to know if I handled this the right way. Should I have let them control everything, or did I make the right decision to set boundaries?